In this podcast episode, Dr. Scott Eilers, a clinical psychologist with personal experience of chronic depression, delves deeply into the complex nature of depression, particularly focusing on the emotional numbness or anhedonia that often accompanies it. The conversation explores the nuances of depression beyond the common portrayal of sadness, the challenges in understanding and treating mood disorders, and practical approaches to coping with emotional numbness. Dr. Eilers begins by clarifying a common misconception about depression. It is not always characterized by overt sadness or despair. Instead, many people experience depression as a profound numbness or emptiness, a condition clinically known as anhedonia, the loss of the ability to feel joy. This symptom reflects a dysfunction in the brain's reward system, particularly the dopamine pathways responsible for generating feelings of pleasure and accomplishment. As a result, activities that once brought happiness or satisfaction become emotionally flat or unrewarding. This lack of emotional response often leads to decreased motivation, not because the person no longer cares, but because the brain no longer provides the usual emotional incentives to engage in life's tasks. Dr. Eilers uses a vivid metaphor to describe this experience, likening it to having a black hole where emotions and reactions should be. This emotional void explains why individuals with depression may struggle with basic self-care or responsibilities. It's akin to being asked to work without pay. There is no compelling reason to continue when the reward is absent. The discussion then moves to differentiating normal sadness from clinical depression. While sadness is a natural emotional response to life's hardships, clinical depression is a chronic condition that can arise without any identifiable external cause. People with major depressive disorder may feel as if they are grieving or experiencing loss, even when nothing in their lives has changed. Dr. Eilers emphasizes that depression is a mood disorder with episodic patterns, where individuals cycle between depressive and non-depressive states, sometimes unpredictably. He also introduces persistent depressive disorder, formerly dysthymia, a form of depression characterized by a constant, low to moderate level of depressive symptoms that do not fluctuate significantly. This condition can feel like an ingrained part of a person's personality, making it harder to recognize and treat. Dr. Eilers acknowledges the many unanswered questions surrounding depression, particularly why it manifests episodically and why treatment outcomes vary so widely. Despite advances in psychotherapy and medication, only about half of patients experience meaningful relief, and a significant portion are labeled treatment-resistant. He critiques this term for unfairly implying patient fault, suggesting instead that current treatments may be insufficient or improperly matched to individual needs. He highlights the multifactorial nature of mood disorders, involving brain chemistry, lifestyle, and social factors such as isolation. The interplay of these elements complicates diagnosis and treatment, underscoring the need for personalized approaches. One of the most compelling parts of the conversation addresses the invisibility of mental illness. Unlike physical ailments, depression often lacks clear biomarkers or outward signs, making it difficult for others to recognize or validate the sufferer's experience. Dr. Eilers points out that some individuals with severe depression maintain high-functioning lives, excelling in careers and personal responsibilities while internally feeling hollow and numb. This high-functioning depression is frequently overlooked, leading to shame and isolation. He uses the metaphor of leverage to explain this phenomenon. People with depression lose the emotional return on their efforts, so even significant achievements fail to produce joy. This discrepancy between input and emotional output can drive some to overwork or distract themselves with meaning rather than pleasure, a concept he terms Frankel's inverse law. Instead of seeking happiness, these individuals pursue purpose as a coping mechanism for their emotional numbness. Dr. Eilers shares practical strategies for managing anhedonia, emphasizing the importance of continuing to engage in activities even when they don't feel rewarding in the moment. He calls this approach investments, where the individual does not expect immediate pleasure, but trusts that positive feelings may emerge later when reflecting on the experience. This counters the common belief that if something doesn't feel good now, it's not worth doing. He also discusses the concept of checking the lock, encouraging people to do at least one potentially joyful activity daily to recognize when emotional capacity returns. Another strategy, stacking, involves combining different types of positive emotions, such as achievement and pleasure, to overcome the raised threshold for joy that anhedonia creates. Dr. Eilers highlights loopholes, or small exceptions where joy still breaks through, such as a favorite food or a particular social connection, which can serve as anchors during depressive episodes. Finally, he introduces apathyception, a mindset of accepting that reward is optional and choosing to act despite feeling nothing, effectively out-apathying one's own apathy. The conversation critiques the common impulse to chase intense or frequent pleasurable experiences as a way out of depression, noting that this approach often fails to produce lasting relief. Instead, Dr. Eilers advocates for focusing on things that make it feel good to be you, such as maintaining physical health, sleep hygiene, nutrition, and self-compassion. He stresses that the brain is an organ dependent on biological resources, and without proper care, it cannot generate positive emotions effectively. He likens the brain's functioning to a power grid where insufficient rest, poor nutrition, and lack of movement lead to a low-power state that impairs emotional experience. This biological foundation must be addressed before psychological and social interventions can be fully effective. Dr. Eilers reflects on the potential downsides of excessive self-awareness, explaining that while some awareness is beneficial, too much can lead to overthinking and paralysis, reducing effectiveness in therapy and daily life. He relates this to the Yerkes-Dodson law, which describes an optimal level of stress or arousal for performance, beyond which productivity declines. He also discusses the intriguing link between high intelligence and depression. High IQ individuals may be more prone to social isolation and quicker to internalize negative experiences due to their rapid pattern recognition. Additionally, heightened awareness of the world's problems can overwhelm coping mechanisms, contributing to depressive symptoms. Throughout the episode, Dr. Eilers shares candid reflections on his own struggles with severe depression, including experiences of psychosis, depersonalization, and derealization. He underscores the magnitude of the challenge, emphasizing that overcoming severe depression often requires a comprehensive, sustained overhaul of lifestyle, thought patterns, and social engagement. He stresses the importance of accepting depression as a chronic condition that demands ongoing management, likening it to other chronic illnesses such as diabetes. This acceptance empowers individuals to take agency in their treatment and self-care, even when the path is difficult and progress is slow.